Wow! What's happening, everybody? It's your boy. That's right, we're back. It is Monday. As a matter of fact, we're in a brand new month. Welcome to the month of March. Listen, this is the last month of the first quarter of 2026. Now, I know we have been through a lot in the first 2 months. But guess what? We're in the last month of the first quarter, and this is going to be an absolutely amazing month. That's right. It's going to be an amazing month. You know, and I was sitting here thinking about what could I do for the podcast today. I just started to think on something, and I want to bring this to the forefront. But before I do, let me just say welcome to everybody that is logging in for the first time, the second time. My name is Stanley Doucette. I am the host of Let's Talk with Stanley Doucette. That's what you're on today. That's what we're rolling with. But I wanted to get into this message. See, family, as y'all know, so much has happened over the last few days, right? There's a war that have broken out in the Middle East, if you will. Unfortunately, one of the iconic individuals in American history, Jesse Jackson, has passed away. So we have that going on. There's so many things going on with the elections in America, the Epstein files, people saying certain stuff, people being deposed. I mean, there's all kind of things going on. And it seems as if the entire country is just in an uproar. It just seems like everybody has just gone crazy. And then there are some individuals that are just sitting there like, you know what? We're going to make this good. We're going to get better and better. We're going to do this and we're going to do that, regardless of what it is. But today, I want to share this because I started to think when Reverend Jesse Jackson died, I started to think like, man, who are the last, if you will, of the Mohegans? Who are the last that's still around that we can glean from some of their incredible wisdom and knowledge? And where does that thought process come from? Who are the next generation of wisdom that comes along? I'm not quite sure myself, but I will say this. In this podcast today, it's simple. The dream is not dead. It's very simple. The dream is not dead. A lot of times when you think about someone dying or someone passing away, they thinking about the dream is gone. The dream is gone. It's not. It is absolutely not gone. It is not even close to being gone. As a matter of fact, not only is it gone, it's alive and thriving, right? So why am I sharing that? Because I started to think, and I didn't do anything in February on purpose about Black History Month. And I was going to go somewhere different with this particular podcast. But then I say, you know what? Let me do something on Black History Month, Black History, not for a specific month or any of those things. I just wanted to do something different. And the reason I titled this particular podcast, "The Dream Is Not Dead," because it's not. And let me kind of break something down for you. If you guys go back and think about slavery, right? And then, even matter of fact, before we got to slavery, there were some things that really blew me away about slavery. And just thinking about, if my numbers are correct, somewhere between 10 to 12,000 ships were involved in slavery from Africa to America. Just let that sit for a little while with you. Now, we may know one or two, but somewhere between 10 to 12,000 ships were involved into that. But most of us don't know the names of any, right? But if you think about that, between 10 to 12,000 ships that were involved in that. People were taken from families. People were just kidnapped. I mean, it's all kind of things that happen. And now we have moved all of those individuals to America. Now, after we moved them all to America, I want you guys to think about something. It wasn't like they got to America and they rolled out the red carpet for our ancestors, right? They didn't do that, but they rolled out a carpet. And if it was red, it didn't have anything to do with being of high society, right? There's some tremendous and horrific things that have taken place even after they moved everybody to America. You know, I hear a journalist here in America, a lawyer as well, Angela Rye, always saying something to the effect like, "We built this joint," right? There's nothing that American can talk about in some kind of way that the African American family was a part of building America. Not too much. If there is something, there may be something here and there, but there's really not too much. You can't really say that they have helped build America, right? Now, that's that part. Now, let's just kind of press forward, because remember, the dream is not dead. If you think about it, you went from being kings and queens in Africa to now you put on a ship, shoulder to shoulder, literally, for God knows how long, and moving across the Atlantic to get to America. I think it was 1.7 or 1.8 million people died just in the transition from Africa to America. So let that sit down for a second. Now, after that, now we get to America and we start building it. Well, everybody's in slavery. So now they're beating people, they're slaving, having people hung and all of those other things, and some horrific things. Remember, the dream is not dead. And now we get to a certain point to where they start writing and saying, hey, you're free. But then there was, I think it was called the Land Act, you're free, but, it was a free but. And they always was changing the rules, moving the goalposts, all of those different things. So now we're here, and then it's like, okay, now we're free, right? Harriet Tubman and all of those beautiful individuals, the Underground Railroad, people started coming together. Now, as African Americans, as black people, back then as Negro individuals, we were all coming together as one because we had a goal, we had purpose, we were living a life of power because we were living as one. Each one teach one. If something happened to somebody else, we was making sure we were there for that individual, right? So then here comes, we started getting a little bit more intellect coming from inside of us and starting to put some plans together and how we can make some things happen. And that was great. Here's the thing that I want to highlight now, because I'm trying to take you through a certain point to get to what I want to really talk about. And now you get to a point to where, individuals were saying the slaves are wilding out. The slaves are going crazy. So there was this letter that Willie Lynch wrote and talked about how to control the Negro slaves. And if you have not read that letter, you can get a chance to read it. It's quite interesting. And in the letter, it talked about how you'll be able to control slaves. I think it was one or two, for 40 years, I think it was, right? Well, in some parts of that particular letter, if you really, really look into it and read it, it's really still going on today. That energy, all of those things are still going on today. So for an example, for those that may not know, think about this. You have the skin war, right? I'm just giving you a couple, right? The skin war. So if you are dark individuals, people look down upon you like you did something wrong. If you're a medium complected individual, then you can work closer to the house. If you are dark, you working in the field. You out there in that heat. You really picking cotton and everything else. If you're a little bit lighter, then you're working closer to the house. If you are fair skinned, then you work inside the house, right? Well, just that began to separate individuals. So the people that were working in the house was saying that they were better than the person that was working close to the house. The people that was working close to the house thought they were just absolutely better than the individuals that were working in the field. So they started to create this division within the race, within African Americans. Now, pause here. If anyone, let me get it right, is a Bible reader, you can read in the Bible, in Scripture, it talks about how when everybody got on one accord, there was nothing that was impossible that they couldn't do. As a matter of fact, that's when different languages came up, because they were starting to build something to heaven. But God was like, okay, I gotta confuse them some kind of way without going against my word. So if you get a chance, read that. So all of this stuff I want to bring forward. So now you got the Willie Lynch letter, and now there, you got the separation by skin color. Even today, there are people still talking about the color of people's skin. Yep, that's right. Still talking about the color of people's skin. So now let's press forward, right? Oh, no. Let me add a couple other things in there. Not only talk about people's skin color, then one of the things in the Willie Lynch letter they talked about is putting all of the physically imposing great specimen of men, and they would have some of those men, just as they called it, mate with other people, other women, just crazy, right? Because they wanted all of those powerful genetic genes. Why? Because they were talking about selling individuals. I know today's day, you'll never think about someone selling people, but believe it or not, they were selling people. We talk now about human trafficking. Well, a lot of the African Americans was humanly trafficked from Africa to America. So I can go on and on and on with that, right? They were talking about also taking the strongest of the men and beating them within an inch of their life and doing it right in front of everybody. And then excuse me, if anybody decide to get out of town, they're thinking like, well, if they're doing it to he's strong. And if they're doing it to him, God knows what it can do to me, right? So that created some stuff. So they created fear amongst the African American community. They created that fear. So now you have division, you have fear, because now everybody's not on one accord. So now we have that, right? So now let's press forward. And then we got segregation. Now this is where we're going to kind of park a little bit, but we have segregation. So now you got segregation. And, African Americans, blacks can't drink out the same water fountain as whites. You can't walk through the front door. You got to walk through the back door. We understand from some of our greatest entertainers that they had the, what is it called? I think it's the Chitlin Circuit. And, you can perform, right? Listen to the words. You can perform for audiences, but you couldn't eat at that restaurant. That's right. You think about Jackie Robinson integrating baseball, and how sometimes they were on a road, but they couldn't stay at certain hotels because they had a black man on the baseball team. That's right. All of those different things were coming up. So again, everybody began to get into one accord. Now, I'm not going to go through all of the history of segregation and all that stuff, but think about this. Everybody began to get on one accord. And in 1955, I'm going to just kind of throw that one out. There was the bus boycott. And how, think about this, in the bus boycott, before Instagram, before Facebook, before TikTok, or as one of my boys would say, my best friend, he would say tick tick. So before any of those, Before YouTube, before Snapchat, before video conferencing, before any of that stuff, even before mobile cell phones or pagers, they put together a system where they were boycotting the buses, but no one missed work. Let's think about that for a second. No one missed work. So they put all of these things together. I mean, literally went to dispatch. They had people working together, people catching rides, people bringing people to work, to church, to the grocery stores, all of those things without any of the modern technology we know about today. Think about that. You can't drop your location. You can't go on your phone and get a share ride. None of that. No. It was before any of that. That was the genius of blacks working together. That was the genius of it. They started working together. No I, no big I, no little I. Everybody working together. That was in 1955. Something else happened in 1955. In 1955, there was a young lady by the name of Rosa Parks coming from somewhere. I think she was coming from work. And she was tired. And someone asked her to literally go ahead on and give me this seat. I want this seat, right? I want this seat. And she refused. Yep, she got arrested in there. Y'all know the story and the history. Why am I sharing that? If you just think about those two incidents, the bus boycott in Montgomery, where people literally put systems in place so everybody could get to and from work. You also think about this. Not only that, but at the same time, they were fighting, and when I say they, all of the civil rights movements, they were literally fighting non-violently in the Deep South. Some of y'all can't even walk across the street without y'all ready to pull that workout. Y'all don't even want to walk across the street. Somebody blow you ready to pull that workout. No, they were doing this non-violently. What it was facing water hose and fire hose and every other hose and all kind of crazy stuff. You know, you couldn't be caught after dark by yourself, and all, i.e. Edgar, I can't think of his name right now, Medgar Evers, right? All of those different things were going on. Things were just happening. I mean, Medgar Evers got shot in his driveway. So all of the things going on. And it's just things are happening. But yet, in 1955, they created the bus boycott and began to literally put a system in place. Now, why am I sharing that, right? Rosa Parks refused to get off the bus. All of this stuff happened in 1955. Now, let me press forward to April 4th, 1968. April 4th, 1968. That's the day the good Reverend, my brother, Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated. Now, people say it was from this one or that one and that. Whoever it was from, unfortunately, my good brother was dead, right? But here is what I want to bring up. There were a few people that were actually on the balcony with him, right? There were actually a few people that were on the balcony with him. So the first person I want to talk about, because a lot of times we don't really think about this, because I'm talking about the dream is not dead, but a lot of times we don't talk about these things, but I wanted to highlight it today. So the great Reverend Samuel Billy Cowles, right? So Reverend Cowles, he was actually the closest to Dr. King when the bullet rang out. He was actually the one that was closest to him. He was the one that was literally beside him. So why are you saying that, Stanley? Well, there's a couple things I want to highlight. First of all, he was a pastor, right? He was a pastor. He was born in Mississippi, the deep, deep South. So y'all know what that is. But check this out. When that happened and they shot Dr. King, Reverend Cowles was only 21 years old. He was only 21 years old. Just think about that. 21 years old. What were you doing when you were 21? See, when I'm saying the dream is not dead, it's because of this. What were you doing at 21? I'm going to bring it all together, right? But we're talking about people that are leading a massive movement at the tender age of 21. Think about that. Reverend Kyles was there. He was right beside Dr. King. So he's doing all those things. Later on in life, he founded a church. He was part of PUSH. He was, doing stuff with Reverend Jackson on both of his presidential campaigns. So they were not just saying stuff. He is literally making things happen. Now remember, 1955, he was only 21. He was only 21 years old. Think about that. He was only 21. So that's one individual. Let's think about Ralph Abernathy. If you're in Atlanta, there's Abernathy. Anyway, I'm not going to say that. But so you talk about Reverend Abernathy, Reverend David Abernathy, right? He was an OG. Now listen, he was an OG. In 1955, I call it, he was an OG, old school. He was the oldest. Guess how old he was? 29. He was 29 in 1955. Well, who was he? First of all, Reverend Kyles, he was an ordained preacher or pastor. I should say preacher. Reverend Abernathy, he was ordained in a traditional Baptist way. He was a Baptist preacher as well, but he led the boycott. He was one of those high-ranking lieutenants. He was a mentor to Martin Luther King. He and Martin Luther King were the best of friends, and I can go on and on and on. So they were there, right? He was there. But check this out. Reverend Abernathy was not on the balcony at the time the shots rang out. He was actually in the room, right? But he was still right there. He was still in room 306, but he was still right there. But think about that. So later on in life, he did some things to create so many different opportunities for people to be successful. That's right. Later on in life, Reverend Abernathy spoke, listen to this, at the United Nations to speak about world peace. That was in 1971. Now remember, when all of this happened, he was quote unquote old school. He was 29. So later on in life, he talked at the United Nations about the peace. And he was oh my God, this is so powerful. Assisting in brokering deals between the FBI and the American Indian movement. Think about that. After his boy got killed, and some people say it got killed by the federal government. Some people say it's not. I don't know. Wasn't there. I can't tell you the facts or not. But later on in life, he literally was there to help broker deals between the American Indian movement and the FBI. How powerful is that? So again, remember, we're talking about the dream is not dead, and I'm gonna bring it all back full circle, right? So we have that. So now we rolling. We rolling. So then we have another one of the great lieutenants, as I call them. Now, I've had the great opportunity to meet this, I'll say young man, and that's none other than Andrew Young. I had the great opportunity to meet Ambassador Young. Now, when in 1955, right, he was only 23. He was only 23. He was there. He was only 23 in 1955. Later, he went on, this is so powerful, to be an ambassador to the United Nations. I think it's under the Carter administration. He went on to be the mayor of Atlanta, and he's brokered so many other deals around the world, highly respected. The intellectual capacity for him is off the charts. And oh yeah, by the way, he is my frat brother as well. I just want to throw that out there for y'all. So, but think about this. In 1955, he was only 23. He was only 23. So all of the powerful things he's done, he's now spoke at all over the world. He pours wisdom into so many individuals. He continues to do things yet time and time and time again. An incredible leader, right? They created the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, the SCLC. Y'all, we all know about that. So all of those things are going on. But I also want to get to this. Not only was Andrew Young doing all this stuff, not only was Ralph Abernathy doing all of his things, and they were preaching. They still were men of the cloth. They still were preachers. They still believed in God and a higher power. I have to say, I'm not sure if I would have had the discipline to have the non-violent movement. I don't know if I would have been that disciplined looking at somebody beating me and hit me in the head with bricks and water hoses. I'm not sure if I would have had that opportunity. So kudos to these individuals, right? And I also want to bring up, one other individuals, and everybody now unfortunately know that Reverend Jackson has passed away. But check this out. 1955, Reverend Jackson was only 14 years old. He was on the balcony with Dr. King, and on the balcony with Dr. King, he was 27. Yes, let's think about that. Hey, holla if you hear me. You heard me? He was only 27 when he was there. So we all know Reverend Jackson ran for president in 84 and 88. We used to talk about run, Jesse, run. First one he lost to Walter Mondale and Gary Hart. That became the Democratic nominees. And then in 98, it was Michael Dukakis that he was the runner-up. He finished up runner-up to Michael Dukakis in a Democratic nomination. So we understand the great things that they did. Of course, y'all know he went on and did all kind of tremendous things. He started PUSH. He's doing so many beautiful things. It just been amazing. And yet he still continued to fight up until the last day he was born. So if you look at these years, in 1955, you got 21 from Reverend Cowles. You got 29 from Reverend Abernathy. You got from Ambassador Young, 23 in 1955. Martin Luther King was 26. Jesse Jackson was 14. So why am I bringing this out? Well, it seems to me if we study history and we walk down these paths, right? So if you start with slavery, the black people overcame slavery. All of the torment, all of the trials, all of the brutality, all of the things they had to suffer from, and yet they still overcame that. Now let's move a little further. If you look at what happened in a deeper part of moving from Africa to America, they overcame that. They started to build America. And then in slavery, while picking cotton and while being separated from families and being sold here, there, and all of those things, they began to overcome that. So we overcame the transportation, we overcame slavery, and then we came to the segregation. Then we overcame segregation, and then we got the right to vote. Hello? Tap on the mic. Ding, 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 ding. We then got the right to vote. Now, some of us know about Representative John Lewis and the things that he was going through. And even when we were in Selma and he went through that horrific, they call it Bloody Sunday, and he went through that horrific opportunity to literally press forward in a nonviolent movement. I think he was only 19. So Even then, we still have individuals in their late teens and early 20s that was still walking and operating in nonviolence, right? And because of that, all of a sudden now, segregation was destroyed. People began to get the rights to vote, right? Later on, Martin Luther King got a holiday. Later on, after that, now he has a spot on the national monument. So, he has a spot on the national monument. So, all of those great things that he has done, and all of his compadres have done, and his boys, the main thing is everybody was working together. The main thing is everybody was on one accord. The main thing is, even though we saw Martin Luther King and he had the great speeches and a great orator and began to move the needle forward in a great vision, and clearly God's hand was definitely not just on him but in him, we understand all of his power, whether it's from Reverend Kyles, whether it was from Ralph Abernathy, whether it's from Jesse Jackson, whether it's from Andrew Young, whether it's from MLK himself. We knew they had oil on them and in them. They were moving they were garnering people, like literally helping out throughout, right? So now let's look at this. Why do I now say that the dream is not dead? It's because of this. It's because of this. There are individuals that I've had the pleasure, and others have had the pleasure, that we've mentored some young men. And we look at how powerful those young men are and how they're moving up, and I'll say ranks for lack of words, but how they're moving forward, how they're becoming a powerful impact on society. And they're in their late teens and early 20s. Think about that. They're reshaping the world, not from loudness, but literally from consciousness, from a deep down, profound consciousness that's within them. I say it's the voice of God that's working through them, and now they're moving forward. I don't want to call names, but just believe we have other individuals that's coming behind us that are literally have not just the capacity, not just the talent, but also their spiritual power is just amazing. So now we have all of that going on. That's why I say the dream is not dead. Every single time you see something in America go on and they're trying to pull the black man or the black woman down, guess what happens? We move forward on that. See, when God has his hands upon his people, when he has his hands upon his people, and there are certain individuals that he don't only have it on them, but he also have it in them. You know, there's a scripture that said he knew you before your mother, when you were formed in your mother's womb. He knew you. So he know everything about you. He created you. And those individuals that he has his hand in and on them, they're operating based on them. So my question is, all of that leading up to this is this. What are you doing to make sure that you're better? What are you doing to help people register to vote? What are you doing to move people into vote? What are you doing to run for office and to have people that have consciousness to run for office? What are you doing? There's a young lady by the name of Jasmine Crockett out of Texas, and I'm just using her name. There's others that have been fighting and fighting and fighting just because of just idiotic laws and lies and all of that stuff. And nobody wants to literally challenge individuals that's literally tearing down the fabric of the American dream for individuals. Now, let's pause here. If we've overcome transportation from Africa to America, we've overcame slavery, we've overcame segregation, We've overcame looking down on us and we couldn't vote. Now we can vote. All of those different things, what are you doing to help move the agenda and everybody forward? Everybody that's not black is not bad. We're not saying that. But what I am saying is this: for those that are black, those that have lineage all the way back then, what are we doing for our own interests? Or are we still going to believe in the Willie Lynch model and they lied to us and we're going to sing and dance and chip and then and then as soon as they're voted in, they turn their back on you? No, let's get on one accord. Let's go out and do what we have to do to be on one accord with one individual or several individuals, and let's make that happen. See, I'm a firm believer, and let's not just talk about it, but we have to be about it. You know, if you look at the past weekend, past week, icons are dying, other individuals are dying, the war's going on with Iran, and I don't want to get into politics, but all of that stuff going on, so all of that's happening. So my question still becomes, man, what is it that we can do to continue to make things happen? Did you feed the homeless? Did you clothe the naked? What are we doing to press the agenda forward? So many people want to say, look at me, or woe is me, but not willing to help somebody else. How difficult is it to literally open the door for somebody? How difficult is it if that's your desire to run for office, you're not running for office? Because we're thinking and wishing and hoping for somebody else. But if it's you that has been called, it's you that have been called. So go ahead and take your position and do what you have to do. As we close out, I didn't want to make this long, but the dream is not dead. The dream is not dead. We've talked to several people over the last few days, weeks, months, and years. It is not dead. Do we understand Martin Luther King said, I have a dream, and everybody gonna come together? We understand that. But the dream is not dead just because, unfortunately, Dr. King is not here. Unfortunately, because Jesse Jackson is not here. Unfortunately, because Ralph David Abernathy is not here. And I could go on and on and on. We understand that. But, family, we're going to make this happen. But we have to believe. We have to come together. We have to literally come together as one group, as one unit, as one individual, operating at different locations, but coming together as one and that agenda. That's going to make a difference. That's going to apply pressure without you even saying a word. That's going to apply that pressure. Whether you're a judge, whether you're school board, whether you're running for Congress, whether you're running for state legislature, whether you're running for municipality, whether you're running for a congressman, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's now time for us to make that thing happen. You might say, I just want to be a poll worker to make sure everybody's doing what they're supposed to do. Make it happen. You might say, hey, I want to help people get to and from the polling places so they can vote. Make it happen. Regardless of what it is, you might be in the post office and you got to send the actual ballots off. Hey, make it happen. We have to do our part because individuals died for us to be where we are. So now let's do our part. Well, let's go out and vote. No, if you notice, I didn't say who you need to vote for. I personally know who you need to vote for. I didn't say who you need to vote for. But what I did say, well, you need to go and exercise your right to vote because we have our own free will. And because we have our own free will, God is not going to step in and be like, oh, well, no, not at all. So we have to go out and vote. Go out and vote. Make sure we're doing what we're supposed to do, that we can handle ourselves. Let's go out and make that happen. I know this is not the normal exciting podcast that I normally would do. I know this is not the one that we standing on chairs and all that stuff, but this is probably one of the most powerful ones that I've ever done, because if you look back at our history, the dream is not dead. It's not. It is not dead. From transportation to slavery to segregation to where we are today, oh, you can see how we continuously overcome because we're in one accord. Stay in one accord, family. I'm telling you, there are some incredible, powerful, magnificent things that's going to transpire and take place for us. I cannot wait to see what's going to happen in this month of March. I cannot wait to hear the testimonies and the people talking about, look at what happened. I cannot wait. There are several different things that's going to happen in the positive. There are several different movements that's going to happen. But hey, we got to do our part. You know, I heard this last thing, and I'm going to let y'all go when we talk about doing the part. See, a lot of times we will pray for something, but we don't fulfill the prayer. That's right, I said it. We don't fulfill the prayer. If you think about a vending machine, just think about a vending machine, whether you want to get a Snickers, some Doritos, some drinks, or whatever it is, right? Out the vending machine, but just think about the vending machine. So there's a process even to the vending machine. First thing is, you have to put your currency in there, whether it's coins, whether it's dollars, or whether it's euros, or whatever it may be. You have to put your currency in the machine to pay for the actual item that you want. Now, let me ask you guys a question. Do y'all think we have not paid for the actual items that are rightfully due to us? I would absolutely say we have. So now you put the coins or the dollars or the euros or whatever into the actual vending machine. The next thing you have to do, check this out. This is good. This is good. Ding, 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 ding. The next thing you have to do is select what you want. You can't just put it in there and just say magically appear. You have to select what you want. You have to select what you want. Now, whether it is Doritos, Funyuns, Starburst, a drink, a Coke, a Sprite, a Fanta, orange, you got to pick. See, in life, we may have put our money up, but we didn't pick what we want to do, meaning we didn't vote. We didn't do any of those things. We just said, oh, okay, there you go. Hey, here it is. Now we got to select. So whether it's A1, B3, C5, whatever it is, you have to pick. So when you're going to vote, you're picking. Your C1 or C6 or B3, whatever it is, you're now picking, right? So check this out. So now you've put the money in to pay for your item. Now you have selected your item. Now we're excited, right? It ain't over yet. Just because you selected, the little thing spinning, it drops down. Guess what the next thing you have to do? You have to literally reach in and grab it. See, once we go out and we register to vote, we still have to go and actually vote. We have to still go out and vote. If we don't, well, unfortunately, we just allowing somebody else to pick what we want. No, we have to literally go out and vote. So now we have paid the price. Now we can vote, right? Now we can select who we want. And we have great candidates that are running for offices. And now all we have to do is literally pick what we want. And now when I say go out and grab it and snatch it out of the vending machine, how about this? How about we participate in the campaigns? How about we go out and say, not only that, but I want to not only be there, I want to help move this agenda forward. I want to take everything that we have and begin to press forward. So you first of all, you're paying for your items, you selecting it, and you going in and taking it. And I'm not saying illegally, I'm saying legally taking it because you're bringing and doing everything you can to make it happen. I'm telling you guys, this is amazing. I cannot express to you guys how powerful this is. The dream is not dead. We have several 20-year-olds, several 25-year-olds, several young people that are absolutely masterfully brilliant. You think about these young ladies that solved this mathematical equation from St. Mary's Academy in New Orleans, Louisiana, a couple years ago. What people thought for years it was unsolvable, and yet these two beautiful, brilliant ladies solved that problem. So yes, we got what it takes. We got what it takes. So our assignment from now until the rest of the year is to go out and make it happen. Is to go out, do what you have to do. Think about the vending machine. Select, pay for it, select, order, whatever. Let's make it happen. Because the dream is not dead. For those individuals that you see, young men, young women that happen to be black, we have to now start mentoring them to elevate their thought process. Don't allow them to fall for the bribe of knowing or having a game station, and them not moving forward when they can actually use that to actually get paid from it. Where they could create their own business, where they could create their own coding company, where they can get into AI. See, we have the tools. And now we have to just go get it. We have to make it happen. And there are several individuals I know that would love to mentor children and young adults, be there with them, taking them to schools, taking them to colleges. We know we have those individuals. So I don't want to keep beating a dead horse dead, but I want to say thank you guys to every single individual that have something to do with Black history. Thank you. Thank you. Regardless of what, thank you. You have helped us all tremendously. So I thank you. I appreciate you. I pray nothing but God's favor and grace upon you. And let's go and make some things happen. Happy, happy, happy Black History Month. Happy, happy, happy to see all of the impact that you guys will make. So with that being said, I'll see you guys next week on Let's Talk with Stanley Doucette. Probably won't be as serious as this week, but I wanted to take a different tone to make sure that it was just this impactful. And I appreciate each and every one of you. God bless, and I will see you guys next Monday on Let's Talk with Stanley Doucette. Now let's go to work and make some things happen. God bless. Y'all be easy. Peace.